Hey dude, so this coronavirus situation is pretty serious, huh? We should develop a vaccine so that we could,
Yeah.
become immune to this crap.
You're right, dude. Immunity is important.
Yeah,
But don't you feel like immunity is a general theme in today's politics?
right.
Isn't it the case that we seek for
Right.
immunity every single day?
Oh,
We look for protection from people that may be dangerous to us or
Okay.
think differently from
Yeah.
us. We want to make our political institutions more immune to outside influence.
well, this coronavirus situation is pretty serious.
Yeah.
So it would be great to develop a vaccine.
Right on, dude. Vaccine. Vaccine to protect us from outsiders, foreigners, people that live on the margins.
I just want a vaccine.
Yeah, dude, but don't you
I
feel
just
like...
want a vaccine.
Oh, if you like this video, please consider subscribing.
Hello, welcome to Flickr Theory Reviews. I'm your host, Tadas Vinokur. Today, during the ongoing coronavirus crisis, I thought it would be interesting to look at the concept of immunization and its biomedical as well as political implications. The concept of immunization is developed by Roberto Esposito, an Italian philosopher who is mostly known for his work in the field of biopolitics. Well, what is biopolitics? Biopolitics is a field that examines the ways in which contemporary political structures administer and regulate life on the level of populations. The word populations is key here. In the grand scheme of globalization, human beings are no longer interpreted as simply legal subjects that carry a name, have a passport, but rather they're interpreted as an assemblage, a population of living beings. That is to say, life in biopolitics becomes a point of measure. The human being is no longer seen as a unique identity, but rather as a mere living abstraction, an embodiment of life. Let's review our notes. I would like to simplify this by quickly discussing Michel Foucault, who distinguished three types of political power: sovereign power, disciplinary power, and governmentality. In the case of sovereign power, the sovereign agent, such as king, gives direct orders and punishments. In the case of disciplinary power, that is, power associated with modernity, schools, prisons, and other institutions yield power by closely monitoring and disciplining people. Finally, governmentality refers to the power that emerged together with neoliberalism, which utilizes social regulation and individual self-governance. In this case, populations are governed by way of consent, that is, by way of conducting the conduct of people.
Tadas,
Yes.
as a millennial, will you choose avocado toast, student loans, climate change, or political correctness?
Gosh darn it. Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes! Biopolitics can be tied to the idea of governmentality, in that biopolitical power utilizes the most advanced strategies of research and data collection, such as statistics, demography, epidemiology, and biology, in order to conduct and create standards for the proper way of living. This is not to say that biopolitics undermines or shackles life. On the contrary, by way of normalization, correction, and optimization, biopolitics actually imposes a certain kind of life onto us. Foucault, in fact, claimed that biopolitical power is the power to make live and let die. Anyways, when thinking of biopolitics, we should simply keep in mind that due to new biotechnological and research innovations, life itself has been made transformable and controllable. Well, what does Roberto Esposito have to say about biopolitics then? In his book Immunitas, The Protection and Negation of Life, Esposito focuses on the biopolitical notion of immunity. We all know what immunity means in biomedical sense, namely, it is a form of exemption or protection with regard to an infection. We even have the same word, immunity, in jurisprudence. which refers to a situation where a person is safeguarded, protected from the common law. Well, what makes immunization a biopolitical concept? According to Esposito, immunization as a method of maintaining safety and purity of a body extends itself to other areas of society and culture. This happens because the study of immune system, namely immunology, has normalized and disseminated the theory of immunization. For Esposito, a perfect example of this phenomenon is the well-known autoimmunity deficiency syndrome, or AIDS. The deficiency in immunity causes an organism to die because it can no longer protect itself from ordinary infections. This is precisely what makes AIDS unique. It undermines the organism's ability to cope with an outside threat. Esposito writes, AIDS ravages person's subjectivity because the disease destroys the very idea of an identity-making border, the difference between self and other, internal and external, inside and outside. That is to say, AIDS undermines the idea of an identity, a human subject, that can stay stable, self-sufficient, and well-protected from outside threats. We can see a really good example of an identity being under threat in a movie called Being John Malkovich. Here, a guy named Craig finds a portal into John Malkovich's mind, which means that for 15 minutes, Craig is able to experience the world from John Malkovich's perspective.
I'm saying, see, I don't really need an extra bath mat. So if I get the set, would it be possible if I could just get maybe 3 extra hand towels?
This turns out to be a rather fascinating experience. Craig even starts selling this experience to people for profit.
Excuse me, sir, exactly what type of service does this company provide?
You get to be John Malkovich for 15 minutes. 200 clams.
John Malkovich is understandably not very happy about this. He thinks that the portal belongs to him insofar as his own mind belongs to him alone. He wants to protect it. He wants to immunize his identity.
That portal is mine, and it must be sealed forever for the love of God.
Mr. Malcolm, sir, with all due respect, I discovered that portal. I mean, it's my livelihood, do you understand?
It's my head, Schwartz! It's my head!
We begin to approach the issue of biopolitics when the methods of immunization, that is, of protection and safeguarding, are used to protect the health of a community or a political body. A perfect example here is migration. When a flux in migration is treated as the ultimate threat to a community, most of the time it is due to the alleged danger that it poses to our biological, social, and environmental identity. When discussing migration, we often go back, like in the case of AIDS, to the issue of not being able to tell where the inside and outside of the body is. Esposito writes, immigration is commonly presented by the media as a potential biological risk to the host country, according to a model that pathologized the foreigner. According to Esposito, another example of biopolitical immunization lies in the campaign to protect computers against viruses. In this case, Esposito has in mind not just the personal computers that we use on a daily basis, but rather the massive computers that manage financial, political, and military relations on a global scale. Esposito thinks that in the battle against computer viruses, the same explicitly medical, even epidemiological, vocabulary of immunization is adopted. This happens because computers can become a vehicle for international terrorism. Immunization of computers, therefore, becomes a political goal. A way to respond to Esposito's claims would be to say that in times of globalization, we have actually increased the levels of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments. So, is immunization really a problem today? In fact, Esposito thinks that globalization has only increased the level of anxiety that circulates around the topic of cultural identity. People now tend to immunize themselves by identifying more with their local group as a way to reject the global contamination of globalization. Esposito writes, the more the self tends to make itself global, which is to say the harder it tries to include what is located outside itself, the more it tries to interject every form of negativity, the more negativity it reproduces. Now we reach the most important point in Esposito's theory of immunization, namely the fact that immunization, if practiced on an extremely high level, can destroy the body that it tries to protect. In other words, immunization at high doses is the sacrifice of the living. This is implied in the medical process of immunization. When vaccinating a patient, one introduces into the organism a controlled portion of the disease. That is to say, the cure is always given in the form of lethal poison. So, if we want to protect a body from outside threats, we have to ensure that the body is able to receive and adopt a controlled level of outside influence. On the one hand, when immunization is too strong, the body will be reduced to bare life, life with no resources, no means of survival. On the other hand, when immunization is too weak, the body will, like in the case of AIDS, lose its ability to control infections coming from the outside. Therefore, what we need is a kind of biopolitical balance. If we let political and cultural immunization to grow without limit, it may push our political bodies towards an implosion or explosion. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
You should subscribe to my channel. You should subscribe. Please don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my